Good morning from Bahrain, and thank you for joining our event, Virtual Bahrain. It's an honor to have very distinguished speakers with us today that they're going to talk about digital transformation e-government. Of course, you would recognize that all the speakers are in 3 different countries, and this is the amazing thing of virtual events. So we are honored to have them. We have, we'll start by introducing their speakers as a sequence, and I'll introduce them one by one, and then we will have at the end of it a panel discussion where you can raise your question and answer. So our first speaker is Her Excellency Ms. Uhud Ali Al-Shaheli, sorry for that mispronunciation. She is an inspiring Emirati who has scripted her success story with relentless determination towards promoting the ICT industry in UAE. In 2018, the government recognized her pioneering role as the UAE Pioneers Award. She holds many academic qualifications to her credits, a bachelor degree in software engineering, a master in business administration, along with several advanced courses acquired across the globe. Her expertise in the ICT industry has earned her many keynote speaking and proactive panelist opportunities on a global platform such as the UN, IBM, EMEA summits, amongst others held across the globe. She is the Director General of Ajman Digital Government, a member of the AI, Artificial Intelligence and Blockchain Council in the UAE, the Vice Chairman of the Committee of Digital Transformation, and a member of the Standing Committee for Government Development in Ajman. Her career path is dotted with remarkable achievements in all government positions she served. We would like to welcome you, and we are very honored with Your Excellency. So you might start your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Can you all see my screen? Okay. Bear with me. Okay. Digital transformation. Before 2020, if we asked organizations, whether in the public or private sector, do you see digital transformation a trend or an urgency? We would have heard a variety of answers that will mainly say it's kind of luxurious and that we should not be in a rush to implement as long as we have other options for service delivery. But now, in 2020, if we come back and ask the same question, what do you think the majority of entities will say? Should we still be cautious? Now, moving on to the main theme of this session, digital transformation. Is it a trend or is it really an urgency? Let's answer this question together by the end of the presentation. No doubt that COVID-19 turned the world upside down, shuffling all our plans, removing boundaries and silos in ways no one thought was possible. We all noticed that great deal of business disturbance in different sectors. Organizations were affected differently, depending on the maturity level of their digital transformation. In addition to the extent to which they successfully planned and implemented their digital transformation strategies. we saw organizations with complete business freeze, and some of them couldn't tolerate the loss and went out of business, while others were ready and the pandemic brought huge opportunities and revenues to them. Focusing on the government sector, and as per Gartner's report, the government digital transformation and innovation framework focuses on 8 main pillars that are strategy, digital maturity, platform and APIs, emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, data analytics, open and shared data, and data management. However, in our opinion, and based on our experience, there's a missing pillar that you always have to keep in mind, which is service redesign, with an aim to enhance and simplify customer experience. However, beware, we've seen many examples of entities bragging about the newest technologies put in place, neglecting their customers' experience, resulting finally in a huge failure. Let me take you briefly to our digital transformation journey. In Ajman, in 2017, we released our digital transformation plan that was built mainly on 4 main streams. First of all, exceptional customer experience. Second, paperless and integrated government. Third, enabling policies and continuous learning. We started with a digitalization percentage of 60% in 2017, and we are now proud that in 2020 we have reached to 92% digitalization and 89% digital services adoption. And this helped us to smoothly continue providing our services during the pandemic. Now, speaking about digitalization, I'm pretty much sure that you noticed that digitalization became all around us and imposed itself on us. Mackenzie designed a very nice and yet simple way to reflect on how digitalization became embedded in every aspect of our lives, whether in our homes, in our offices, and even on the streets. If you look deeply in this slide on how digitalization is everywhere, you will realize why countries started seeing digital economy as the hen with the golden egg. If we take Amazon, for example, it reported $88.9 billion in revenue during the second quarter of 2020. That is a 40% increase from the same period a year earlier. The net income doubled during the quarter to 5.2 billion US dollars. Looking back at governments, and again from a report released by McKinsey to showcase the extent of digitalization in different sectors, such as ICT, real estate, healthcare, governments, and etc. We can see that although governments are trying their best to acquire the newest technologies in order to cope with the digital era, they're still midway. The table shows us that the overall digitalization is in the yellow zone. It also shows us that the digitalization in business processes is relatively low, assuring what I mentioned earlier, considering the importance of business process re-engineering as a main pillar in the digital transformation journey. Looking at this slide, the displayed forces will have a strong impact on your strategies and plans and need to be seriously taken into consideration. Shift in demands is highly expected. For example, Visa saw more than 13 million customers in Latin America make their first ever online transaction in the first quarter of this year. Demand for labor is also shifting. There's a strong need for reskilling. There's a strong transition to remote working. We all noticed the disruption in the supply chain during COVID 19, and companies are leveraging several tools to increase their resiliency. The growing political pressure for new regulations and legislations to protect the economy is and will always be an important force. Evolution of the virus, economies are reopening despite different public health realities with the changing set of safety interventions. We would also like to highlight the following expected turbulences you might face not only in the coming period, but all the time while embracing your journey towards digital transformation. The technology is changing rapidly, so we all have to bear in mind the readiness of the new emerging technologies and its maturity, and build the capabilities and the right skill sets along the journey, keeping an eye on the need to continuously monitor the security levels. The more digital, the more the risk. Business acceptance, getting business owners and key stakeholders buy in to approve the data model is a challenge. Business acceptance is as challenging as technology itself. Change management. Whenever there's a new change introduced, whether technology or a change in the current status quo, expect resistance. A proper change management plan is needed to ensure smooth implementation and buy in. Finally, be agile. Expect changes. Don't be reluctant to reshuffle your plans and priorities. Expect the unexpected. So, to conclude, our top recommendations will be as follows: build quick wins first, and then scale up, grow as you go. Ensure your staff is equipped continuously with the right knowledge and tools and share lessons learned. Put your best people on the hardest problems. If they can't solve it, no one will ever can. Continuously engage your stakeholders along the journey to ensure buy in. Reprioritize your digital transformation projects by assessing value and, dis- and disruption risks. Leverage the urgency created by the current outbreak to accelerate the development of transformation initiatives, such as data centric initiatives. So, going back to the question I started my presentation with, is digital transformation a trend or an urgency? I think the coronavirus, has silenced any lingering doubts about the necessity of digital transformation to business longevity. I think you all agree with me. Changes will never be slow again, and there is no turning back. So I think you all agree with me that digital transformation is a foolproof direction. So plan well and build success stories. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ahoud. It is a great presentation, yes, and we hope that everybody will understand that this is no choice. It's a one-way road that we have to adopt and go with digital transformation. It's important for the government, it's important for private sector, it's important for the future. Thank you again for your good speech, and we'll come back with question and answer at the end of the session. We will be receiving, and just for the audience, you can use the platform to raise any questions, and we will take them at the end of the session during the panel discussion. Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Our next speaker is His Excellency Dr. Ahmed Darwish. He's a former Minister in Administrative Development in Egypt. Dr. Ahmed Darwish was born in Egypt. I don't know if I should say the year, but I will say it since you put it in your profile, 1959. He received his BSc in Electronics and Communication Engineering and Master's in Computer Engineering from Cairo University in 1981 and 1984, respectively. He received his PhD in Electrical and Computer Engineering from the University of California, Davis in 1988. His last two public positions were Minister of State for Administrative Development, 2004 to 2011, and Chairman of the Suez Canal Economic Zone. As the chairman of the economic zone, he laid foundation for one of the largest special economic zones in the world, 461 square kilometers with 6 ports. As a minister, he had three portfolios. The first was the preparation of the national policy and strategy document on e-government, in addition to the planning, administration, and coordination of the implementation efforts of the four sub-programs, namely basic infrastructure, services delivery over new channels, state resource planning, and integration of national database. The second was the design and execution of the institutional and human resource development program. Last but not least, the third was governance institutionalization, including transparency and integrity in government and public sector. His academic career started in 1988 as a lecturer and postdoctoral research with the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science in the University of California. In 1989, he joined Cairo University as assistant professor, where later he became associate professor, then a professor with Computer Engineering Department in 1994 and 1999, respectively. During the year 96-97, he was on sabbatical leave with Bradley Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, Virginia Tech. He supervised 10 PhD dissertations and 26 master theses. He has over 64 publications in peer-reviewed journals and scientific conferences, 11 invited papers shared in 4 books, numerous invited talks, and a few sponsored research programs. We'd like to welcome you, Professor Ahmed Darwish, with us today. The topic that you're going to talk is trending hashtags. So that will be interesting to listen, and I hopefully will enjoy your presentation and speech. Please go ahead. You are more than welcome.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, I'd like to thank you for this kind introduction and for this kind invitation. I've visited Bahrain several times, and I still, even of the this virtual meetings that we do, I still look forward to my next face-to-face meeting. You're doing some very interesting and good job in Bahrain. I decided, actually, I feel humbled now to talk out after His Excellency Ahoud, because she probably, I can skip many of the slides due to her slides are very well organized. Mine are the very simple black and white ones. I decided actually to look into the future. I mean, most of the people now are talking about COVID-19. It's too late to talk about resilience, because if you are not already have your own built-in resilience into the system, it's too late to talk about it. It's too late also to talk about recovery, because you should have had your own plans for recovery. So I'd like to look into the future and talk about recovery. It's always triple R: resilience, recovery, renewal. So on our path to recovery, what I would like to talk about, because I don't officially now represent Egypt, I'm not the minister anymore. So I'd like to talk generically about what are the technologies that will help you to fast pace and leapfrog into the future. And I've actually decided to talk about, I'm given 15 minutes, so I chose 11 hashtags. I made it like the Twitter style. Those 11 hashtags actually, let's talk about, let's say we took a minute about each of them in order to see what they are. I've colored them like the traffic light. The green ones are the ones I think that everybody is already working with and using them and so on. I'm sure everybody is familiar with connectivity and the cloud and mobile and so on. And then the yellow ones are the ones that I'm sure that people are looking at, but they are, just starting with them. And the red one is something that is coming up, and I want to alert you that this is what's coming up, and it's about time to be the first to use them. When we talk about connectivity, there is lots of data that is actually laying around in government in terms of the government now knows a lot about us due to the national ID. They have national databases, they have e-government program, they have government to government networks and so on. So usually they have this kind of connectivity and link. The citizen is part of a family, he owns a home, he works somewhere, he gets some services and so on. And the question is whether this should be, where are these databases stored and connected together? We are always afraid of a big brother, someone who will be in charge of all the databases. So usually we'd like to do it actually on a distributed basis through a government to government service oriented architecture. But since 2011, I have, with a few of my colleagues actually, sort of led an effort actually on how to use geodata for planning in government. And this is very important because actually you kind of would like to have a map of different layers about your country: health, education, culture, sports, economic, social, and so on. And on this map, actually, you put the different, even the health, for example, could be several, the health is definitely several layers. You start even from premature baby incubators, where are the clinics, where are the hospitals, where are the MRIs, and so on. And you overlay this with the population density, and then you could actually plan your resources and say, okay, this part of the country, if I need to reach a premature baby incubator within a circle of 2 to 3 kilometers, where do I find one? And then you could see actually that some parts of the country are green because you have satisfied the objective. Some other parts are yellow, some other parts, oh, you need to travel a lot to find an MRI and so on. So this will help you actually plan your thing. And the whole idea is actually to latch different parts of the society together, the business with the government, with the NGOs, all working together. Second keyword or second hashtag that we find there is actually the cloud and the mobile and the fintech. I mean, the cloud will, if I look at you now as a government employee, the cloud actually helps you to really relax, sit down and relax back, because lots of things is being taken care of for you and you just have to concentrate on your core business. As a citizen, the mobile app and the fintech applications for all the payments, whether they are with a card or with a mobile or whatever, allows you actually to lay back down and get your services done easily. But we are actually getting into a new era. This new era is actually where artificial intelligence is going to play a role, where we are going to completely change the model the government work with. Because instead of waiting for you to ask for the service, we could actually anticipate the service that the citizen will request and we can fulfill it. So we move actually from a pull to a push. A pull actually means that I know that I need to change or to renew my car license. So I go to the website and I ask them to do the renewal. So I'm actually pulling the service from the government. But if you come to think about it, that's not even an AI application. The government knows that my car license is going to expire in 3 weeks. The government knows my mobile number. The government knows many things about me. They can just send me on WhatsApp or an SMS or whatever saying, you need to renew your car license. You owe us that much of money. If you accept, you click yes. It gets deducted from whatever money purse you have on the mobile and your card from your bank or whatever, and the service gets done. So a little bit by a little bit, we'll be moving to what we call a seamless government. It's an integrated government. And in fact, one time actually, I started labeling it with my colleagues in 2013, 2014, invisible government. This term actually would be very appealing to the citizen because nobody, it's all over the world. It's not in a certain country. Usually citizens don't like government. They don't like to interact with government. They think government to them is hentai and so on. So once we achieve the objective where the government is really invisible, it's not actually controlling the citizen lives, and at the same time it's implementing all the regulatory framework, this is going to be quite a game changer. So invisible government is going to be the next keyword. Next hashtag actually is probably Internet of Things, and this is actually will be very useful in terms actually starting from your electric meter at home, because during hot weather, people use air conditioning more. Maybe the government wants to help the environment, so they want to price electricity at different times of the day with different prices. So a kilowatt at a very hot weather might be a little bit more expensive than a kilowatt when the weather is not hot. And during the day where the factories are working might not be the same as during the night. So there are lots and lots of applications actually once we start equipping our different devices with IoT. My God, big data and analytics. This is the name of the game for the past 3 years and probably for the next 3 to 5 years too, because we have a huge amount of data. Statisticians will not be able to analyze it the old way they used to do. Now we have analytics program, and these analytic programs are very clever in terms of getting relationships, understanding things that might be hard for us to understand on our normal way, building some conclusions and so on. So big data actually, especially for countries like Egypt, where you have 100 million citizens, so you have lots and lots of data to process. This slide is exactly a similar slide from Her Excellency's Zahoud slide, so I'm going to skip. This is a sample example because I don't want actually to keep talking about hashtags one each minute without actually showing what we can do. So you can do what we call a development simulator. The development simulator lets you test your plan, look into the future, and see if your programs are actually achieving what you want or not. So this is, for example, the map of Egypt, where we would like to have certain percentage of teacher to students or whatever and so on. Where it is green, we are sure it is good. Where it is yellow, it's not so good. Where it is red, it means that this is not the sort of the quality education we would like to provide. So we started with this project in 2013. We had a certain plan. We kept testing our plan to see if our plan is going to work. And this helps you actually to keep running this simulator and say, okay, at what year I'm going to achieve things. And here we are in 23, 24, 25, okay, 26, 27. Okay, so it looks, if we implement this plan, follow it, most of the country is going to be green, except that we see that this plan suffers from a certain thing, is that Egyptians are still actually concentrated around the Nile, and they are not actually started to migrate a little bit and invade the deserts, eastern and western desert. But at least this plan actually will, by 2030, have a good educational plan. So one more time, it's seamless integrated government. You integrate things together. This is a sample from the Singapore government. I had it there because it's a good one, and I'm not sure if the conference will distribute the talk to the audience, but I had it there for the reference. Another important actually hashtag that we cannot actually overlook is actually privacy, hacking, data security, and so on, because now it's the name of the game. It's actually with all this data laying around in different computers, different clouds, different things, we are under the pressure that are we losing our privacy? Does different people can look at my health records or look at my some of my properties, or can some people hack into different accounts and change data and so on? So this is the game of the cat and mouse. I mean, we will be always trying uh, to sort of protect our data, and hackers will always be trying to reach to our data. Blockchain is also one more hashtag that we should be looking at, because it provides some sort of the uh, cryptology that could actually ensure that the transactions are secure, and so on. My last hashtag, actually, I'll not spend too much time on it, but it's just to tell you that please be aware that our current linear economy is going away, and we are actually starting an era of a circular economy. In the old linear economy, we used to take material, make it, use it, and waste it. In the circular economy, we're not going to do that, because this idea of use and waste is not going to be accepted anymore. We don't have this luxury of the resources. And the technology and the IT could play an incredible role in that. I have on my, in the slides for the references, some of the readings that you could do if you want to start reading on circular economy from the European Investment Bank or other handbooks. And the important thing is that we, the technology and IT people, will play a very important role in this circular economy in terms of the operation, in terms of the products and services, in terms of the whole ecosystem. I don't want to take more than what is allowed, because I tend to think that the discussion and the panel will be very important and very valuable to me. I just show that there is a great potential in this circular economy. There is great of money being invested. This slide I could also go very fast with, because Her Excellency Yahud mentioned the fact that we should be agile. If we are not agile, we're going to disappear. My last comment before I close I was one time invited in Paris for a very big conference that talked about government 2025. And it was actually like 2,000 attendees, but it was face-to-face in a very big opera hall. And the thing that I actually warned everybody about, and I still warn everybody about, don't try to use old structures and to adapt them to new disruptors, because they are not going to work. The organizational structures that we have, I even gave an example in 2002 about parliaments. We usually have a parliament because we cannot actually ask all the people, what do you think about a certain issue? So people actually sort of go and nominate a person to talk on their behalf. They go to the voting, they select someone to represent them. But in 2030, 2035, maybe that's not going to be the case, because everybody has a mobile in his pocket, everybody's mobile is secure. Maybe we could ask people questions and get a direct poll, not through a representative. So a parliament, the way it is now, is an old structure. We cannot actually readapt it to a new disruptor. Different government entities are very old structures. Maybe we will need to change the structure of government to actually adapt to the new disruptors. I'd like to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I hope I shed some light on some of the what we call the new trending technologies that will help you a lot when you are implementing your invisible government. I stopped to use e-government. I'm now a fan of this invisible government. And I look forward to the panel discussion. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Professor Ahmed. I think it's enlightening. And you started from hashtag, but went to maybe reforming how people opinion are being taken with changes of parliament, and that's really a futuristic, and it will be very interesting to see a model where each individual can contribute directly and what the structure about it. And also, I think the same thing for the government, if it can be restructured. And yes, we will look forward for the panel discussion to take this. I still, the message to everybody of our audience, we have a few questions that are already on the platform, and we can see them and we will look at them, and you are encouraged to put your questions forward so we can discuss them later. Now, moving forward, we have Mr. Assam Hamad, the Executive Director and of Partnership and Customer Engagement from Temkeen. Mr. Hamad is the Director of Temkeen, which is called Labor Fund, and he is the Managing Director of the Bahrain chapter of Global Entrepreneurship Network. In Temkeen, he's responsible for managing a broad portfolio of strategic partnership with various private and public sector entities, and for providing dedicated support and advisory solutions to key business and individual segments. Mr. Assam holds a bachelor degree in marketing from St. Edward's University, Austin, Texas, and a master's degree from London Business School. Mr. Assam, today we're going to share with us partners in the times of change, and we'll see the experience of Temkeen in general and specifically into this virtual world. Assam, please, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Ahmed, for the introduction, and thank you to Dr. Ahmed Darwish and Her Excellency Ms. Ahoud for the really very interesting thoughts and ideas that were presented this morning. I will spend some time to share our experience in the current period, and I chose the title of Partners in Times of Change. As many of you know, Temkeen has been established primarily to support the private sector in Bahrain, and we consider ourselves the partners of the private sector. And in times of change, in times of uncertainty, we remain to be supporters of the private sector, and it remains to be our key focus and our priority to help the private sector in actually weathering the current storm into the future. For the sake of our attendees from other markets, I thought I would start by a quick introduction of the organization Temkeen, or the Bahrain Labor Fund. We have been established in 2006 as part of the Labor Market Reform Project, built around the Vision 2030 that promotes competitiveness of the market, sustainability, and fairness. And our objectives, we have 5 main objectives around contributing to the national economy, supporting the private sector, as I had mentioned, improving the skills of Bahrainis at different stages of their growth and careers, creating job opportunities, and the economic empowerment of women. So as you might expect, we are in the current period heavily focused on supporting the market through some of these areas, like maintaining the growth of the job market, or alternatively supporting the private sector and the labor market in Bahrain to adapt to the current situation, and where required to also support in the upskilling of Bahrainis to basically continue to contribute in the labor market. We support both individuals, as I have mentioned, Bahraini citizens, and enterprises registered and established in Bahrain. Till date, we have directly supported 200,000 Bahrainis through our various platforms, be it support for training, professional certifications, or wages, and over 52,000 enterprises. And this figure represents more than half of the registered businesses in Bahrain. Cumulatively, our support funding has exceeded the 1 billion Bahraini dinar mark over the past 13 years, mostly in the shape of grants, but also through the deployment of capital through partnering banks and others, special partnerships we have with organizations that I will briefly mention today as well. We've had our fair share in supporting the market through this digital transformation. And as the speakers mentioned early on, this is not anymore an option. This is something that we are very well headed or very well involved with currently. And all sectors within the market are headed in that direction. Digital transformation, several sectors we are seeing getting disrupted, and we ensure that we provide the right support to help companies within this direction. We as a government organization, of course, we've had our fair share of transformation to adapt to our customers' expectations. We have digitalized our customer service channels and functions. We have created new virtual channels to ease the access for our customers to be able to complete all of their transactions from home. We utilize new online payment gateways because our support heavily depends on the movement of funds from different parties, be it banks, be it suppliers, or directly to the bank accounts of beneficiaries. This component is extremely important for the smoothing of our processes. We've also introduced virtual inspection mechanisms whereby our beneficiaries no longer have to expect physical visits from us just to basically check up on them and look at the way they are utilizing our funds. So that's so far how we have been involved in digitally transforming our organization. And of course, governments have been trying to juggle basically their priorities, their internal priorities to operate, while at the same time paying very close attention to the market and to what the market actually needs. So in the past few years, we have formed some very sort of important partnerships that we are really proud of. I've named a few for your reference. For example, the launch of the Cloud Innovation Centers with the AWS offices in Bahrain. And this enables us to basically tap into challenges of the public sector organizations, whereby we can engage students from the University of Bahrain and Polytechnic to look at these challenges and develop cloud innovation around these challenges. We've launched the AI Academy with Microsoft and Bahrain Polytechnic. Dr. Ahmed mentioned the importance of AI and disrupting basically sectors in the coming future. We currently subsidize ICT infrastructure cost and cloud subscription cost for any business that is currently based in Bahrain, that is registered in Bahrain. We continue to provide professional certifications in various technological fields, and several of these tick the boxes, which Dr. Ahmed mentioned as well, like blockchain, IoT, fintech, artificial intelligence. We are very demand-driven, and we basically have created platforms to allow Bahraini citizens to come forward with their requirements, and we would be able to completely fund the cost of these programs and certifications. We've also invested in Internet of Things. We have a partnership with Brink, which is an accelerator based in Bahrain that develops IoT ventures and supports them in scaling in Bahrain and overseas. That said, the challenges we have been presented with in the past few months have meant that as an organization, we have to be very agile and look at the immediate requirements of the market to help the private sector sustain its momentum, and also to continue providing their products and services. We have very close access and direct access to various sectors in the market, and we were able to get an idea for how small businesses reacted in the past few months as they battle basically the precautionary measures that were introduced to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. So most of our beneficiaries and customers have ramped up their online presence. They've provided discount to customers, reduced working hours, obviously. They have created new projects and services that they feel would have a need in the market in the current period. Obviously, hygiene and sanitization has been high priority. So several have contracted cleaning companies, reducing number of employees. So these are just examples of the measures that small businesses have taken in the past few months and weeks. And this information is very important for us to develop support programs that would help companies in actually battling the current situation. So what we've done is we've introduced the Business Continuity Support Program, and this is in line with the National Stimulus Package, which is nothing shy of being very generous and supportive, and it has been used as a benchmark internationally. So the Business Continuity Program basically provides small, medium enterprises with grants to support them paying their rent, salaries for employees for specific periods of time. This included other individuals beyond businesses operating in Bahrain, such as taxi drivers, public transport and bus drivers, driving instructors, etc., because some of these professions have been greatly affected during this period. We have supported more than 15,600 businesses till date. Our support ranged from 1,050 Bahraini dinars to 12,000 Bahraini dinars over a period of 3 months. There was also an extension of that support for the severely or adversely affected sectors, such as the food and beverages and fitness centers, etc. In terms of what we feel SMEs and small or micro businesses should be thinking about now, of course, SMEs should be, bringing out a pad and paper and really mapping out the new normal and looking at opportunities that exist as a result of this pandemic. So customers aren't able to reach, these businesses. However, these businesses should find ways and channels to reach out and provide their services to customers. There have been some very creative business transformation ideas that we've come across. Subscription services, for example, are gaining momentum, and this has proven to be a very effective business model in several markets. We also feel the private sector could work alongside the government, of course, to support and endorse SMEs, as we really can't afford to lose small businesses. And in many instances, if you look at previous historical recessions, the SMEs are basically the backbone of markets and economies, and they support the recovery process for economies. So we understand it's been a very difficult second quarter of the year and the third quarter as well. There will be lack of cash reserves to stay afloat for much longer for many of these businesses. This has been voiced through several sectors. But we are there to support the market through this, these challenging times, and we continue to be partners and provide various programs to help companies going forward. So, what are the partners, our business partners, and main key stakeholders talking about in the current period? Business transformation and agility, and these are keywords that have been referred to more than once during this morning's discussions. Digitalization, of course, hygiene and sanitization, and increased, self-employment, as well as people look at self-employment as an option for sustaining their incomes. So we are very aware, very cautious of these trends in the market, and these will be precursors to developing our future programs. As many of you know, we have flagship support programs, such as the business development program, such as the training and wage support program. And we must be very aware of these trends and changes in the market as we continue to enhance and develop our platforms. The community has also been very supportive in sustaining the activities and momentum of the ecosystem and businesses in all sectors. Startup Bahrain, for example, has introduced a specific portal to highlight all the perks and all the support that is being provided by the government, by the private sector, to basically help combat some of these challenges. And there's actually a whole exhaustive list of these support sort of platforms, discounts, perks, and different opportunities that small businesses can really tap into to help them sustain their operations going forward. So as I have mentioned early in the presentation, the government is a key partner in this transformational process. And we have been working hand in hand with our key stakeholders in the market to clearly identify gaps, clearly identify challenges, to continue to better serve the market and to really come out of this better, hopefully. We can speak for Temkeen ourselves. We have been taking very large steps to adapt to the situation, as many of our government counterparts have been doing. And we really hope that this is an inclusive process that we see extended to the rest of the market. Thank you so much for attending our contribution today, and we hope you find the rest of this conference very fruitful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Assam, for this very enlightening presentation about Temkeen. The question that always comes to my head, if this challenge happened many years back, there is no e-government, there is no Temkeen to support the entities, no internet. It's an amazing how the readiness is very important in terms of countries and government. And some experts blame that the pandemic spread so fast because of the availability of good airlines, affordable travel, that also contributed to dissemination. So I think this is the cost of developing as we progress. We'll start our panel discussion now. We have some questions online and we have some questions that I have on my paper. We will target to finish sharp at 12, so we give time so we avoid the time lost in the opening ceremony. So we still have good 15 minutes. Just one thing that Dr. Ahmed Darwish asked or raised. Yes, the presentations will be available online on the portal for individuals to use. So my first question, and maybe that will go to you, Ms. Ahoud, is what are the major mistakes to be avoided during digital transformation? You can take it from the government perspective if you want to be specific.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I mentioned a couple of, I wouldn't say failure points, but things that we need to consider when looking into our journey of digital transformation. When I mentioned getting the business acceptance of the stakeholders and the buy-ins, when you don't involve your stakeholders from day one in your journey, you will not have anyone to support you in that. So this is one of the key points to put in mind and not neglect. Second, we can also say you have to start small and scale up. When we mentioned the new technologies, the technologies are evolving in a very fast pace. So when looking into new technologies and emerging technologies, there are huge doubts about them. So what to start, what not to, what to try not to, what not to. So always start small and then scale up, try it. Have your MVPs, have POCs, and then see how things go as you grow. These are the main points. I mentioned a lot in my slides. Maybe the other, the participants can see them on that.
Thank you very much, so do you have something to say, Dr. Ahmed?
Yes, actually, let me share some of my experience with different governments in Africa, in the Arab world, and in Eastern Europe, and so on. One, actually, you said what's the difference between and how to ensure successful digital transformation. One problem that I see often is that people think that automation is digital transformation. Automation is not digital transformation. So, true digital transformation means a new concept of doing things. If I am a parent and I'm applying for my kid to join school, if they ask me to bring with me a birth certificate, then what they have done is automation. It's not digital transformation, because if we are connected and if they can actually tap on the database, I could just go to school, fill in the form. They can check with the social, whatever, the national ID database, and they can make sure that what I have filled in is correct. So a digital transformation is a new concept. I should not be asking someone to present a document where this document is being issued by another place. That's digital transformation in a nutshell, quickly.
Maybe also
Thank
to
you for
add
the
on Dr.
elaboration.
Ahmed, if you allow me, when we talk about digital transformation, it's not new. We've been talking about transformation and digital transformation maybe from the late 40s or 50s. Now, when we say digital transformation, the key point as I mentioned earlier, business processes. So we don't take the technology and then the newest technology comes, just bring it on, the newest technology and another emerging technology, bring it on. It's not about technology, never about technology. It's all about business processes. It's all about how you do work, how you re-engineer your processes, your services to your customers, whether public, private, or whatever sector you're in.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmed. I'll have a second question, and who wrote the question is anonymous. So he said, for all speakers, what role should the government in MENA play in regulatory compliance of financial services and digital adoption? How does this compare to the rest of the world? So the question is very specifically in our region, how should governments play a regulatory compliance in the financial sector?
I can take up on that. I think actually, for the sake of governance, it's not actually the government that will take care of this regulatory. It's either the central bank or the financial regulatory authority. And these are the central bank and the financial regulatory authorities are two independent authorities. They are not under the prime minister. They should be independent, because actually they also regulate the government work. So if actually they are under the government, that's going to be a conflict of interest. So the correct way of actually placing the central bank and the the financial regulatory authority, the central bank regulates the banking sector. The financial regulatory authority regulates the non-banking sector, like the insurance, the microfinance, the consumer finance, and the like. And both of them should not be government. They should be independent entities.
Thank you.
If I may just chip in to that answer, Ahmed. Absolutely what Dr. Ahmed mentioned has been the case in Bahrain. So the central bank in Bahrain has a fintech and innovation department, and they've introduced the regulatory sandbox. And this has been a platform that enabled companies basically to test their innovations and services against the current regulation within the market. So it's really an initiative built towards financial and digital transformation. So when it comes to transformation within the financial sector, the sandbox has been a good case study, and that is of course supported by the Bahrain FinTech Bay, which also incubates ventures and innovations related to that sector to sort of increase the chances of growth and success.
Thank you, Assam, for your contribution. There is one specific question about Tamkeen. Will Tamkeen change their programs and support to be more focused on priority areas for the new norm? And he's talking about what, I know you mentioned a few areas, and then very specifically talking about healthcare, ICT capabilities from home, stronger ICT companies with own IP, tech startups, training on future skills. So I think you discussed it. So the question is, I think if I can summarize it, is Temkeen after this pandemic, the new norm? Will they be, and I assume they will be reviewing the way they're offering their program and support to support the new changes that will drive the world and the economy in Bahrain?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. We are very sort of adaptive to what the market needs and where the priority is. That said, our platforms are very flexible and demand driven. So we have been able to create platforms to support the needs of companies regardless of what sectors they belong to and what their requirements specifically might be. We are, of course, as an organization, sector agnostic. We support all sectors equally. But as I mentioned in my presentation, we do have partnerships that we have formed specifically to intervene in specific sectors and have maybe specific objectives in developing those sectors, like technology, IoT, cloud, etc. Also worth mentioning that next year, 2021, would be the start of our new strategy cycle. And we are aiming to have a consultation session with the public to basically get the feedback of the market after this. The current experience that we have witnessed over the past few months, priorities have shifted for many. So this will be an opportunity to actually listen to the market again in a much more formalized fashion to develop our strategy going forward. But yes, that is the current thinking. It's expected, and this is where we're looking to head in the future.
Thank you very much, Assam. I have one final question to all the speakers, and I will give you each to respond to it. This question is important for the study that we're going to do with UNDP regarding the study regarding the impact of digital during the pandemic. So the question is very basic, is that do you see digital has contributed positively and saved the economy and the people during these crises? Many of us talk about it, but we want to make sure that you feel that the digital had a greater role in helping the economy and the individuals through this time of challenges. And I'll let you. And I'll start with Ms. Ahoud, if you like, to put your opinion, please.
Sure, thank you very much. Actually, I'm a very strong believer of the importance of digital economy and the digital transformation on the economy itself. Here in the UAE, we have the Ministry of AI and Blockchain, and recently they added a portfolio on that ministry, which is the digital economy. And that is because the UAE knows the importance and noticed the importance of the digital economy. We all know, and based on the UNCTAD Digital Economy Report 2019, the contribution of digital economy on the GDP worldwide, it ranges between 4.5 to 15.5%. So we humbly in the UAE, we have 4.3%, and we are willing to increase it. So yes, the digital economy is booming, and we expect it to be double or triple in the coming years.
Thank you for Ms. Ahoud. It's a very good answer, and we thank you for your contribution. Professor Ahmed, you would like to talk about
actually,
digital?
I'm always optimistic, and I like to look at the bright side of things. And I've been invited twice to talk about working from home and e-learning. And I chose the title to be an opportunity that was forced upon us, because we are, by culture, we are slow movers. We don't adopt things very fast. We take our time to absorb and digest and so on. And this pandemic, actually, when it came, it forced us to do good things. One of them, actually, in order not to lose the school year, we actually went to learning via Zoom, via meeting, via Google Classroom, via Teams, via I don't know, whatever, via WebEx. I don't want actually to miss one of the good platforms in my talk. But and also students learned how to go and search and do things and communicate and so on. So this was actually a great experience that was given to our kids and our students, and especially for Egypt. Bahrain might not be the, you don't have a great population, I mean, you don't have a huge population in terms of number, but we have very crowded schools. So this was actually a very good opportunity for us to provide education with a different model. Also, working from home, we have so many jobs that could be done from home. I see no reason that people leave home, crowd the traffic. We have more, I don't know, exhaust in the environment, and we have bad, unhealthy air and so on. And we have crowded streets and we lose time and so on. While there are lots of jobs that could be done as efficient from home, as long as we have a key performance indicator. I could measure how much you worked from home, because I could tell how many reports you wrote, how many emails you have replied to, how many transactions you have done. So I think this pandemic, despite all what we are talking about, if we look at the positive side of things, it forced us to go into a direction that is actually a very good direction. I'm a member of the board in several companies. Believe it or not, we have decided that even when the government will allow us to go back for a face-to-face meetings of the board, we're not going to do so, because Cairo, I mean, each of us spend like 2 hours in traffic to arrive to the board meeting place, and then just meet. And why don't we just each of us meet through the board, uh, via this, great platforms that we have, and it's very efficient. We could still discuss, we could still do things. So to make a long story short, there are positive sides of this pandemic. It forced us to do things faster.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. That's very interesting. Yes, I agree. The challenges, I think Egypt has the largest population in the Arab world, and you have the biggest challenges from population and others, but you have very good, smart people. That's the most important thing also.
Thank you for your kind remark.
So, Assam, you would like to also talk briefly about this question?
Sure. I think in terms of digital readiness, people have been ready to adopt all these technologies and all these alternative ways of communicating and working. As Dr. Ahmed mentioned, probably the friction is with the legacy systems and legacy organizations that aren't maybe not yet equipped to be able to work and to be productive sort of in that realm. So, as a population, we have very high internet penetration. Relatively your common citizen is very tech savvy. They're able to use various technologies and platforms. It's just the sort of legacy systems that need to adapt to that. And it was mentioned in the keynote as well this morning that future generations, to them, working in the office is going to be the odd sort of norm, not working digitally or working from home. So this is already the new normal, or the normal sort of behavior for, is a generation. I don't know where are we with the letters with the coming generation. So people in school today that are doing virtual classrooms. So this generation will come out expecting to resume communicating in that way. going to the office to work is going to be the odd sort of option.
Thank you very much, Assam, for your contribution. I am very honored to really have you all today as a moderator and listen to your thoughts, your knowledge, and picking up a little bit of your brain of what knowledge and information you shared with us. Thank you very much for being with us today, and hopefully we'll be in touch. You're still more than welcome to continue attending the event and listening to other speakers. The next one is about e-learning, so it might be interesting for you also, Dr. Ahmed.
Yes,
and
it is.
you again, and have a good and really be safe, and wish you that this pandemic passes and everybody is in good health. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was indeed our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for the invitation, Ahmed. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.